worker shortage that is affecting employers nationwide is greatly affecting the prisons in Minnesota. It's a problem that was addressed well before COVID, but the pandemic has only worsened the issue. And of course, safety for the public and within our state prisons is a top priority for corrections officials. Marcus Schmit is the Commissioner over Human Resources for the DOC, and I do know that we are talking about making some major changes to the hiring process within the Department of Corrections, Marcus. But before we get to those changes, first tell me where things are at, and I know staffing shortages have been something plaguing the DOC for quite some time.
That's right, Betsy. Well, thanks for the opportunity to talk about the Department of Corrections. Unlike a lot of employers this last year, we never shut down. We were identified as an essential service, and during the pandemic, we've had a majority of our staff, especially our security staff and our programming staff, show up for duty every day. And they've had to endure pandemic, additional personal protective equipment, and still show up on the job managing their personal obligations at home while seeing through those public service responsibilities. So I just want to take the opportunity to thank all the men and women who wear the uniform here at the Department of Corrections for sticking it out these last 16 months and providing essential service to the state.
Marcus, it is not an easy job. And then you add a pandemic inside a congregate facility as our prisons are. And I can only imagine how hard it is for some of those corrections officers and your staff members who have to be on the job. It was already a hard job.
Yeah, we can't catch a break here at the Department of Corrections. I think that's certainly the feeling from a lot of my colleagues who are providing that frontline work. But I do want to reinforce just how important the work is, and that this organization is undergoing transformation that's really being driven by engaging our staff. We've put together a strategic plan that's engaged over 1,000 of our 4,300 employees, and we're making investments and implementing change that's focused on staff wellness, that's focused on providing enhanced programming to the individuals who are in our custody or under our supervision, and really trying to skate to where the puck is going to be for employers coming out of the pandemic. How can we invest in people to more effectively meet our mission? And we're taking that seriously. We're taking a look at our recruitment efforts as we enter a new phase of the pandemic, doubling down on what we can do in communities to engage workforce centers, to engage community leaders, really try to be an employer of choice, an option for young people who are seeking a career, because this really is a career. The benefits are hard to match, but we need to get that foot in the door and really expose people to all the positive things that being a member of the corrections team can bring to them in their own professional development. Putting people on a professional development path, connecting them to a mentor, and being more focused on what that employee experience looks like.
Yeah, I can imagine. I have to imagine that you did have to make some changes to make it more appealing. I know before the pandemic, when I sat down with Commissioner Schnell, he was talking about so many of the benefits and the great things that being an employee of DOC will bring to people. But the staffing shortage issue has only been made worse. Where are you sitting at now with staffing? How many more people do you need?
Yeah, it's really tough. Right now, we're looking at 86 vacancies across our prison system. But what those 86 vacancies don't speak to is the pressure that it puts on our colleagues who are already showing up for work. The overtime, picking up a shift here and there, we're really putting pressure on a lot of our existing staff in order to meet our current needs. And so we're taking a look at how can we improve our hiring process to get people in the door as quickly as possible, to connect them to that training that's so essential to make sure that they're effective in the job, and also connect them to other individuals who are already wearing the uniform and understand what it's like to be a corrections officer here at the Department of Corrections, and that you can have a pretty fulfilling career here and be a part of an incredible team if you give us a shot.
Yeah, and there was something else that we talked about with the commissioner. I asked him about starting wages, because that becomes a big factor with people even seeking out maybe a website, looking at any kind of possibility for a career at the Department of Corrections. So he was going to be checking with the governor. They were looking at increasing starting salaries. Has that happened? Is that still a push?
So we've increased starting salaries. We have a starting wage that's over $20 an hour, which we think is competitive, especially when you look at communities in greater Minnesota. And we're going to continue to recruit and bring people in and encourage our existing employees to do what they can also, because we know at the end of the day that our tenured staff are some of our best recruiters. So we're taking a look at some incentives that maybe we can deploy in order to help meet our needs. And then once we get people here, doing what we can to keep them and making this really a vocation for folks so that they can contribute to the Department of Corrections mission, but also invest in, the time outside of the workplace on things that they really want to do here in Minnesota. And at the end of the day, you come to the Department of Corrections, we will invest in you, and you can retire at 55 and have a really impactful career in the process.
Marcus, give me just 2 minutes. We have to take a quick break, and when we come back, I do want to talk about recruiting, where that is. And I do know that safety is also something that people are concerned about when they're looking at, do I want to work for the Department of Corrections? Give me 2 minutes. We'll come back and talk about that. I'm continuing my conversation with Marcus Schmit, who is the Commissioner over Human Resources for the Minnesota Department of Corrections. We have just a little under a dozen prisons throughout the Minnesota system. And I know that last year in the pandemic, Marcus, there were a number of employees that had to be laid off because of budget shortfalls related to the pandemic. So were you able to rehire those positions? Were you able to get people back into those positions? And moving forward, kind of what we're doing with recruiting. But let's talk about the positions that were lost.
Sure. So last summer, unfortunately, we were in a position where we had to fill a gap that the department had carried for a number of years due to our prison industries program. And we chose to fill that gap. And fortunately, we addressed that ahead of a pandemic that also impacted our bottom line. There were about 50 positions that were lost. We have not, sought to refill many of those positions because this really was something that needed to be addressed long term. However, how we prioritized the impact of those cost savings measures was not on frontline staff. So we really, did what we could to preserve the security staff, the staff who are providing community supervision, staff who are providing programming to people who are in our custody, in order to make sure that we were able to address our budget issues.
Okay.
As we look forward on recruitment, we are adding recruiters, hopeful that as we enter a new phase of the pandemic where there can be a little bit more face-to-face interaction, that there's an uptick in community events, that we're able to build and maintain meaningful relationships with people within school systems, within institutions of higher education, and looking for some strategic partnerships with some other organizations to help address our needs. We are a member of Beyond the Yellow Ribbon program. We're, I believe, the largest employer of National Guard members among state agencies. And we're going to continue to work with our partners to try to help fill those 86 vacancies so that we're able to, address this crisis that we and I know a lot of other corrections organizations across the country are facing right now.
Yeah, when I speak with sheriffs or police chiefs about recruiting for them, for law enforcement outside of prison, it has become such a struggle. I have to imagine that recruiting has not been easy for you, even before the racial unrest, which has really affected our law enforcement agencies, but also how has that affected then recruiting for the Department of Corrections?
So I don't want to sugarcoat it. I think that some of the current conditions in the environment outside of the department are certainly impacting our staff. And what we're doing is trying to be a leader in addressing some of these challenges, in the policy space, in the work that we're able to do here at the department, but also being person-centered in how we fulfill our staff needs. And so, as the economy goes, so goes our challenges in that, when the economy tends to turn around and pick up, we experience, some issues on the recruitment side. But I'm really confident in our colleagues, in our emerging recruitment team, in the story that I think that we can tell to a lot of Minnesotans, that the Department of Corrections is going through some transformation right now to more effectively meet its mission. And part of that transformation is investing in the people who are employed here. And if you come join this team, we're going to invest in you. We're going to listen to you. We're going to engage you and try to understand what your personal needs are and put you on a path that really turns this into a career for you, so that you feel good about the work that you're doing, that you're being invested, and you're part of a team environment. And at the end of the day, the work that you're doing is really, really important.
And with that said, Marcus, let me put myself into a scenario then. If I am coming looking to possibly seek a job with the Department of Corrections, the salary is going to be something that will pique my interest. And you're saying $20 or more starting out an hour, but also safety is going to be the other piece of this for me as I'm looking, I don't know if I want to work there. The benefits are great, but safety is going to be something that's on the top of my mind. So if I come in and I'm saying, I'm working with a population that is here for a reason. How do you protect my safety? What do you tell people?
Well, first and foremost, I would say you're working alongside some incredibly courageous men and women who wear a uniform, and they've got your back. I'll also say that, while this work is wrought with risk, we have a lot of measures in place. There's training. There are people who have expertise in providing that training. We're trying to, make sure that people's needs are met, so that they don't necessarily have those concerns. I think the department, does, I think a really incredible job of focusing on safety, being responsive to staff, and we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to engage staff on, the concerns that they have with respect to their own safety, but also making sure that our investment and the training that we're providing reflects best practices. It reflects the expertise of our colleagues and their lived experience on the job, and that we don't lose sight of that. And it's baked into our strategic plan, and we'll continue to prioritize the safety of our colleagues in the work that we do.
Marcus, I make a lot of interview requests every single day to do in-depth interviews on topics like these, and I don't often get responses when people perceive the media as ready to ask questions that are like gotcha questions. The Department of Corrections is, you'll deal with a population that people lose sight of. And I appreciate the fact that you have always, or the people with your department have always been so accessible and as transparent as you can be. I needed to say that because every time I request an interview, y'all jump up and say, how can we help? So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Betsy. I think we have an incredible story to share. And one of our priorities in this administration is to shine a light on all of the transformational work that's happening in the department every day. We have 4,136 employees right now. Hopefully we'll have a few more in the months ahead, but really encourage people to give us a shot and consider joining the DOC team, because we need you and we're going to invest in you.
Well, I wish you all the best. Hopefully the next story that we do or interview that we do, Marcus, will be on the fact that you have too many applicants. Let's just hope for that.
That would be a nice place to be in, Betsy. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Marcus. We'll be back.